Okay, guys, welcome back to another tier list video. This is one of my favorite bands, so I can give you a little bit more information about each album if that's the kind of stuff you like. Let's not waste any more time and start off with the first album. I have to give it an S tier, and how could you disagree, man? This album was great from start to finish. Even the more like weaker songs, quote unquote, like Little Dreamer, the less popular songs, and Atomic Punk, even those were great songs. And still to this day, like Eruption, come on, it's like one of the most legendary guitar solos of all time, and it's right there on the debut album in 1978, a time period where rock was just kind of in this weird place and disco was starting to appear, and you had Van Halen who just like boom changed the game, and I think inspired many other guitar players and bands in general in the 80s. It's not only Eddie Van Halen, but also David Lee Roth, as a frontman. I think he inspired a lot of other frontmen in the future. uh what else I would say, you really got me. uh on Fire, I like that song. It's really underrated. Ice Cream Man, I listen to that stuff on a daily basis. Ain't Talking About Love. It's an amazing album. So amazing start for Van Halen here. Next album, Van Halen 2, solid A tier for me. What makes it less good than the first album is I feel like there were a little bit of more throwaway songs on it than the first one, and well, I guess it actually that was the case because a lot of those songs, if not all the songs, were actually throwaway songs from the first album. Uh, I'm not sure if it was every song, but most of the song. But still, a great album. You still had amazing songs like "Dance the Night Away," "Somebody Get Me a Doctor." Uh, I'm sure I'm missing one. "Beautiful Girls," "Amazing," "Light Up the Sky," "Dead or Alive," "Spanish Fly," although not as iconic as "Eruption," but still an amazing instrumental. But yeah, there were just some kind of weaker songs like "Women in Love." I know it has a great, unique intro, but still, it's just kind of it's too slow paced for me. It's not, and "You're No Good" as well. I always found it weird how they decided to start off the album with a song like "You're No Good." It's just really, I'm gonna be blunt here. It's just really boring and weak compared to the rest. So it was a daring move to put that in as the first song, but yeah. But still a great album, considering there are only like two or three mediocre songs. They're not even bad, they're just mediocre. Okay. But yeah, those two albums, they had like the OG Brown sound. If you're an Eddie Van Halen fan, you probably know what I mean. It's like his guitar tone. I felt like it kind of altered after these two albums. But yeah, one of the greatest guitar tones of all time on these two records. Oh, I'm sorry. So next, I believe it was Women and Children first. I'm sorry for all the Women and Children fans. Wow, that sounds weird out of context. But I'm gonna give it a B tier. Why? There's still very good songs on there, but still not as great as the first two. Like if you think about it, like the best songs on that record were Romeo Delight, Fools, maybe Everybody Wants Some, The Cradle Will Rock. The Cradle Will Rock, kind of mediocre. I'm sorry. I believe it's overrated. I don't like the what's it called, the distorted keyboards that he uses throughout the song. I just don't really like the sound of it, but hey, each their own thing. Romeo Delight, great song. Fools, good song. Loss of Control, a good, unique song, but still not. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be my first choice if I was in the mood for a Van Halen album. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Let me double check if I'm getting everything right chronological wise. Okay, so yeah, it was, what was it called again? Fuck. Fair Warning. Yeah, Fair Warning. Wow, how could I forget? Solid A tier. Not as great as the first record. Like the top songs on there, um, like the most popular ones that are like could be listed in their most legendary songs, so to speak, like their most well-known songs. There are only like two of them on there, and the rest is just. I personally think they're great songs, like Dirty Movies. I think it's underrated. I've been listening to that a lot. Push Comes to Shove, great song. Has one of my favorite David Lee Roth vocals on it, and one of my favorite Eddie guitar solos. Um, but yeah, then you have like the two songs I was talking about that were like kind of legendary, um, like Mean Street and Unchained. They kind of um, like they don't even make you think about this album. They just make you think about great Van Halen songs, so to speak. But yeah, there are only two of those, and when you compare it to the first record, there are too many to list. You know what I mean? Compared to this one, you also had like two throwaway songs at the end of this album. There was an instrumental called "Sunday Afternoon in the Park." I think it's a good one. I wouldn't listen to it on a daily basis, but it has a great follow up with One Foot Out the Door, underrated song, even though it's pretty short. Okay, next. Next is Diver Down. I'm gonna give it a B, which might seem generous to some people because apparently most people hate it from what I've seen online. And I can see why. I can see why. This was mostly filled with cover songs, courtesy of David Lee Roth, who really insisted on making another album, doing cover songs to get more fame, and that was his strategy to become more successful, I guess. Um, but yeah, that's not really my main issue with the album. My main issue is just that some of the cover songs they chose to do, and even some of the original songs on this album are just kind of mediocre. Like the Full Bug was an original one. There was another Hang 'Em High, which I mean they're not bad songs, but they wouldn't be in my top 30 Van Halen songs or anything. I wouldn't like this wouldn't be something I'd recommend to a first time listener. I don't feel like it really represents the band. The worst song on here would probably be Dancing in the Streets, or maybe Big Bad Bill. Uh, yeah. But one amazing song, like two amazing songs on here were, no, actually three, if you count the instrumental Cathedral, the instrumental I was talking about. Little Guitars, amazing song. It's, I don't know, it also has one of my favorite David Lee Roth vocals on it, and just the way Eddie uses an actual little guitar on it to write the crazy riff, and like the instrumental that comes before it, the intro is also amazing. This flamenco style guitar playing, like Eddie was just coming up with new stuff for every record at that time, and that was great to see. And the third great song would be Pretty Woman, which is obviously a cover, and yeah, I mean they did it good. I mean I'd prefer that one to the original. Sorry, Roy Clark, but it just has more I don't know, more intensity, and it just kind of fits David Lee Roth's character persona, so to speak. Same goes for You Really Got Me on the first album. I prefer it to the original, but yeah, each to their own. Next, we come to the second S tier album of Van Halen, which was 1984. Yeah, this is the album that brought Van Halen to the mainstream, so to speak. I mean, they were already successful. They were like a established band at this time, but this record really transitioned Van Halen out of just rock music, but also in the pop world by making songs like Jump and Panama. I mean, Panama is still a rock song, but Jump is just like a full on pop synthesizer song with only a guitar solo. It's only guitar part in it. Um, but yeah, it's still an amazing song. Obviously, probably the most well known Van Halen song of all time. Um, Now you had like probably one of my favorite Van Halen songs, Panama, Top Jimmy, really underrated song. Hot for Teacher, which was also like it had a music video along with Panama, and I believe Jump, yeah, Jump as well had a music video. They were really pushing the music videos at this around this time at this record. Um, like the only two songs that were kind of meh to me were House of Pain and I'll Wait. I'll Wait especially was just, I don't know. It was like the more ballads. Like if you took Jump and somehow turned it more into a ballad than it already was, that would be I'll Wait. So it was too romantically, so to speak. Then yeah, House of Pain. I don't know. I like the riff, but I thought like the vocals on it were just kind of meh. Like it was kind of a throwaway song. Okay, then this was the end of an era. As most of you know, David Lee Roth left the band and got replaced by another singer, a totally different singer, Sammy Hagar. Love him or hate him, he has amazing vocals. Um, but I do prefer, and that's just me personally, I do prefer David Lee Roth's vibe and energy on those first six records. I don't know. I felt like the main difference between Sammy and Dave was Sammy was, he was more professional. He had a much better vocal range and could make different kinds of music. Like he could make songs that Eddie wouldn't be able to make with Dave, obviously. But however, I feel like the energy is kind of lacking with Sammy compared to Dave. Like Sammy has to kind of remind the audience of okay, let's go, yeah, yeah, okay, let's go, and then with Dave, it's like, what do you mean, let's go? We're already going, man. Come on, get your bottle of Jack Daniels and party along. So that was kind of the main difference to me. Also, like the more low register voice of Dave was really fitting with the Van Halen vibe, the party band, but like with actual really good musicians. Okay, enough yapping. Let's get to more albums. 5150, another S tier for Van Halen. It's actually my favorite. Yeah, I'm gonna spoil it for the other albums, but it's my favorite Sammy Hagar record with in Van Halen. I mean, from start to finish, great songs, except for maybe Inside. It's kind of it was really a major throwaway song. But wow, big change in the sound. More keyboard involvement. But yeah, there was still, nonetheless, still great songs like Dreams, Love Walks In. 5150 is a crazy underrated riff, along with Summer Nights. Those are like those two songs are one of the most underrated Van Halen songs of all time. I feel like they don't get enough credits, mainly due to how difficult they are, the difficulty to play them, but also like the creativeness behind it. Yeah, what else is there to say? Let's move on to the next record. Oh yeah, OU812 was it? Yeah. That's a difficult choice. Difficult choice here. Let me check which songs were on it again, because I'm gonna be really honest. I don't listen to a lot of the Sammy Hagar stuff. Like some of it, but like not all. Let me see here. Go to album. Okay, so Mine All Mine. When it's Love. Okay, that's really wired. Okay, I'm gonna give it an A tier. It was a good record. Not S tier good. There were more throwaway songs compared to these three albums that are in the S tier. Like the main throwaway songs are like Mine All Mine, in my opinion. Sucker in a Three Piece, just kind of. I even Source of Affection, like just kind of I wouldn't put that shit on my playlist, but yeah, each to their own. The rest, like for example, When It's Love, Eddie Van Halen got married to that song. It's a great song. Finish What You Started, Black and Blue, Feel So Good. They're made Cobble Wobble, one of my favorite Van Halen, like one of my favorite Sammy Hagar songs. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next record here, which was For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Let's not read the abbreviation of that. Well, let me think. I'd say it's more of a B tier. Um, I don't know. Think I don't think it had as a lot of great songs on it. They were just kind of okay. Like I could listen to them, but like, I wouldn't like voluntarily look those songs up. You know what I mean? Maybe except for Pound Cake. Spanked is also kind of good. Pleasure Dome, and the rest is Top of the World, 316. They're good songs, but the rest is just kind of meh for me. So it just kind of it felt like it went downhill after 5150. But yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is Balance. I'm gonna put Balance into the C tier. Don't really like it except for Amsterdam. I don't know how to pronounce it. Balicterium. The instrumental song on it. I thought it was great. The Seventh Seal is also a decent song. The rest is just kind of meh. And also, I didn't really like the production on it. It was kind of I don't know, not my vibe, not my vibe. It was too loud, I guess. Okay, let's move on. There was no, never mind. Yeah, let's move on to this masterpiece, who's gonna be the first D tier album on this list. We almost went a full tier list without full tier list without any D's. D's nuts without any D's in them. Van Halen 3, yeah. For those of you who don't know, it was the only record with Gary Sharon. They fired Sammy Hagar, or like he left the band. I don't know. Depends on who you believe. Yeah. And I guess like there isn't one single good song on it, in my opinion. Also, the mixing is pretty bad. On top of that, um, Gary was actually a decent singer, but he just got like the short end of the stick. He was like left with the leftovers, so to speak, because I felt like at this point Eddie and Alex had full control of the band and the songwriting, and Eddie and Alex weren't really in a great place at the time, mentally and not even physically. So I guess like a lot of random stuff came out of that, and yeah, with no clear direction, which is every person doing their own thing, it just kind of fell apart. Yeah, too bad for Gary Sharon because he's actually a decent singer, but he just got dealt a plate of hot shit. Well, on the last album, unfortunately, that's gonna be a C tier. It was a return of David Lee Roth. In my opinion, too little, too late. They should have made an album with him in the 90s because his voice got shot after, like in the early 2000s, it was completely shot. Like he wasn't even able to do those high squeals anymore, and he had this super low register voice. He couldn't really sing anymore, and he was like doing more of an act on stage than actually singing. So yeah, I was too late. Um, there are some decent songs on it. Uh, like As is a decent song. I forgot the one. What was the one they based on that old demo they had? I forgot, man. I forgot. Different kind of. Let me Google it real quick. Blood and Fire. Yeah, that's also a good song. But again, those were all leftovers from the 80s, a lot of those songs. Like unused material that they've kind of recycled into a bad mix, in my opinion. Like the not the mix per se, but just the guitar tone. I forgot to mention that like Eddie's guitar tone got worse and worse after I'd say after 5150 it just kind of went really downhill. Like it got more and more distorted, which I don't know, just like too sharp on the high notes, especially like too much treble, and it wasn't really my thing. It just kind of reminded me of the Death Magnetic album from Metallica, also like really rough mixing. But yeah. So, these are my opinions. You can shit on them as much as you like, but I bet that I'm a bigger Van Halen fan than you'll ever be. So, if you want to fight me, just let me know in the comments. Just post something and I'll probably respond to you because I don't have much to do.